Everything you experience in life, every relationship, every opportunity, every so-called coincidence begins first as a seed in the mind. The outer world is not the cause, it is the mirror. This is why the most powerful tool you possess is not found in your hands, your bank account, or your circumstances, but in your imagination. When you vividly hold an idea or scene in your inner world, you are shaping the blueprint from which reality must draw. The physical world is simply the slow translation of what you have already accepted within yourself as true. Most people assume imagination is a form of play or fantasy with no real weight in the real world. They think that what's happening outside is what's real and what's happening inside is just thought. But the opposite is true. The inner experience is the cause, the outer reflection is the effect. If you can see yourself walking into your new home, feeling the keys in your hand, smelling the fresh paint on the walls, and hearing the echo of your footsteps, you are engaging the creative act that makes it inevitable. This inner event is not wishful thinking, it is a creative decree. The key lies in vividness. A passing daydream has little power because it is not deeply felt, but a scene that you enter with all your senses and emotions becomes alive. When you give that inner scene the same seriousness you would give an actual memory, it takes root in the subconscious. The subconscious does not distinguish between what is real in the outer world and what is vividly imagined. It accepts your inner vision as fact and begins to reorganize everything to match it. What you dwell on consistently forms the structure of your reality. If you persist in imagining hardship, lack, or failure, your life will take on the shape of those inner pictures. If you dwell in abundance, joy, and victory, life will arrange itself to match. This is why it is essential to guard your inner conversations and your private visions. Every time you rehearse something in imagination, you are giving it life. Every time you picture yourself in a certain state, you are planting the seed for that state to manifest. This creative process works whether you are aware of it or not. Most people are unconscious manifestors, allowing old fears, doubts, and complaints to dominate their imagination. As a result, they keep recreating the same patterns. The conscious creator, however, chooses deliberately what to entertain within. They understand that the inner world is the workshop of creation, and they step into that workshop daily with purpose. One of the most effective ways to harness this power is to imagine from the end, not toward it. Instead of picturing the process of getting to your desire, you imagine what it would be like if it were already true. If you desire a new relationship, don't imagine the search. Imagine yourself already with that person, feeling the warmth of their presence. If you desire financial freedom, don't imagine the struggle to earn it. Imagine living as if it were already yours. By living in the end in imagination, you bypass resistance and align your subconscious with the completed fact. You will find that the outer world eventually conforms, often in ways you could never have planned. Events will seem to fall into place. People will show up at the right moment, and opportunities will arise without forced effort. This is not luck. It is the natural unfolding of what you have already accepted within. The world outside bends to the world inside. The more you live from this truth, the more you realize that you are never a victim of circumstances, but the author of them. Your imagination is not a passive escape. It is the script from which reality must read. Assume the end live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, as if it's already a fact. To assume the end means to mentally and emotionally place yourself in the state where your desire is already a reality. It is not hoping, wishing, or waiting. It is claiming. It is stepping into the role of the person who has already received what they wanted and refusing to step back into the mindset of lack or incompletion. The moment you take on this inner stance, you begin to align every thought, feeling, and action with the truth of your fulfilled desire. The outside world, though it may appear unchanged at first, will inevitably shift to match your new assumption. Most people unknowingly assume the lack of what they want. They speak from the perspective of, "I don't have it yet," and reinforce that state every day. They think about their desire as something far away, something that will arrive if they work hard enough or if circumstances change. But the principle of assuming the end is different. It says you claim it now within and live as though the outer confirmation has already come. The law is that what you accept as true in your inner world must eventually reflect in your outer world. Living in the feeling of the wish fulfilled is not about pretending or fooling yourself. It's about shifting your self-identity. If you want to be wealthy, you no longer think as someone who is trying to become wealthy. You think and feel as someone who already is. If you want a loving relationship, you no longer identify as single or searching. You live mentally as someone who is already loved and cherished. This is not about what others see. It is about the quiet, steady knowing you carry inside. The feeling is the key. Thoughts alone can be fleeting, but feelings anchor you to a state. When you feel the reality of your desire, you impress it upon your subconscious mind, and the subconscious accepts feelings as facts. It then works to bring your outer world into harmony with that inner fact. This is why simply repeating affirmations without feeling often yields little result. The words are empty unless they carry the emotional tone of the wish fulfilled. When you assume the end, you begin to notice changes in your perception. Opportunities appear where before there were none. People treat you differently, not because they changed first, but because you did. The assumption shifts your energy, your decisions, and your responses, creating a ripple effect that alters your world. It is not magic in the sense of breaking the rules of life. It is the natural outcome of aligning your inner state with the reality you desire. It's important to understand that assuming the end is not a one-time act. It is a way of living. Each time doubt tries to creep in, you return to the end in your mind. You re-enter that inner scene where your desire is already fulfilled and feel its reality. You may do this while falling asleep, during quiet moments in the day, or whenever you feel tempted to slip back into old patterns of lack. With persistence, the assumption becomes your natural state, and when that happens, manifestation is inevitable. This way of living also eliminates the desperate need to control how or when your desire will show up. You have already accepted that it is done, so the details are irrelevant. You allow life to arrange the pieces in its own perfect order. What matters is that you remain anchored in the inner truth, unmoved by appearances, holding steady in the knowledge that you already are the person who has what they want. The end you assume within becomes the reality you step into without effort. Blocks flow, straining, or trying hard comes from doubt. Faith feels effortless. True creation is not born out of struggle. It flows naturally from a state of knowing. When you are certain of something, there is no strain in holding on to it. You don't have to wrestle with the idea or force it into being. It simply exists for you in consciousness. And because it exists there, it will take form in your outer life. Effort, in the sense of mental strain and constant pushing, is a sign that you are not yet convinced. You are trying to make something happen because you don't fully believe it already has. When faith is present, there is ease. Think of how you approach things you are already sure about. If you know that the sun will rise tomorrow, you don't spend all night worrying, repeating affirmations, or desperately visualizing the sunrise. You simply rest, knowing it will happen. This is the same principle with manifestation. When you truly believe your desire is yours, you stop grasping at it. You no longer try to manipulate events or control every step. You allow it to unfold because in your mind it is already done. Straining comes from a mindset of separation, seeing your desire as something over there and yourself over here, with a gap in between. The harder you try, the more you reinforce that gap. Your subconscious picks up the signal that you do not yet have what you want, and so it continues to reflect that reality back to you. Effort, in this sense, becomes the very obstacle that delays the fulfillment. The more you push, the more you affirm that it isn't yours yet. Effortless faith is not laziness, it is alignment. It is placing yourself in the state of the wish fulfilled and resting there, without the mental noise of how will this happen? Or what if it doesn't work? This doesn't mean you sit in silence doing nothing. It means your actions are inspired rather than desperate. They flow naturally from the belief that it's already yours, instead of from the fear that it may never come. When you let go of strain, you make space for intuition and opportunity to guide you. You begin to notice synchronicities, chance meetings, and subtle nudges that move you toward your desire without effort. It is like floating downstream instead of swimming upstream. The current is already carrying you. Your only job is to stay relaxed and trust its direction. This state of flow can be cultivated by returning again and again to the feeling of already having your desire. Instead of thinking about how to get there, dwell in what it feels like to be there. Replace forcing with feeling. When the mind starts to tense up and push, take it as a signal to step back into the inner knowing. Imagine the scene of fulfillment so vividly that it feels undeniable, and let that be your resting place. Faith feels light. It does not require you to check constantly for signs or measure your progress. It does not demand proof because it already has its proof within. This is why effort blocks flow, because true belief has no need to push. The moment you stop straining, you allow life to deliver what you've already accepted within yourself. The outer world responds to the quiet confidence of faith far faster than it responds to the frantic noise of doubt disguised as effort. Self-identity is the key. You only receive what aligns with who you believe yourself to be. Every experience you have, every opportunity you encounter, every result that shows up in your life is filtered through the lens of who you believe yourself to be. This inner identity is the silent architect of your reality. It determines what you will accept, what you will reject, and what you will even notice as possible for you. No matter how much you desire something, if it contradicts the self-image you hold, it will remain out of reach until that identity changes. Your self-identity is not just a collection of labels or titles. It is the deep, unquestioned assumption you carry about yourself. It's the invisible script you live by. If you see yourself as unlucky, you will unconsciously interpret events in a way that confirms that belief. If you see yourself as successful, you will interpret challenges as temporary and find ways to turn them into victories. The outer world doesn't dictate this identity, you do. Yet most people live as if their self-concept is fixed, shaped entirely by past experiences. They forget that identity is chosen, and it can be reshaped deliberately. You cannot consistently live in a way that contradicts your self-image. If you identify as someone who struggles financially, even if money comes your way temporarily, you will find yourself making choices that bring you back to that state. If you see yourself as healthy and strong, your habits and attitudes will naturally support that state, and you will reject anything that threatens it. The world mirrors who you are being, not what you are wishing for. To change your outer life, you must first change who you believe yourself to be. This is not about pretending or forcing. It's about embodying a new state internally until it feels natural. If you want love, begin to see yourself as already lovable and worthy. If you want success, carry yourself as one who already achieves and thrives. These shifts may start as conscious choices, but with repetition and feeling, they sink into the subconscious, becoming the new foundation from which your life unfolds. This is why many people can visualize or affirm for weeks without results. They are trying to paste new desires onto an unchanged identity. The subconscious will always return you to what feels most familiar. The key is to make your desired reality feel familiar now. This is done by thinking, speaking, and acting in alignment with your new self-concept, even before there is outer proof. When you change your identity, you stop chasing results because you realize they are a natural extension of who you are. A person who identifies as wealthy does not constantly try to become wealthy. They simply live from that place, making decisions that reflect abundance. A person who sees themselves as healthy does not obsess over healing. They act and feel as someone who is already well. The results are inevitable because the identity demands them. The most powerful question you can ask is not, how do I get what I want? But, who must I be for this to be natural? The moment you answer that and begin to live from it, the gap between you and your desire dissolves. Life has no choice but to match the state you have claimed within. You don't receive what you want. You receive what you are. Change who you are in consciousness, and your reality will bend to meet the new version of you. Time is an illusion in manifestation. The moment you accept it as done within, it's done. Outer events just catch up. The mind is conditioned to think in terms of time, past, present, and future, as though these are rigid walls separating events. But in the realm of creation, time is not a fixed sequence, it is a perception. The moment you accept your desire as a completed fact within, it exists for you in consciousness now. Outer events may appear to unfold gradually, but that is only the physical world rearranging itself to reflect what is already true in your inner reality. When you declare something done in imagination, you have already planted the seed in the unseen. That seed contains the full blueprint of the outcome. Just as an acorn contains the complete pattern for an oak tree, your inner acceptance contains the complete pattern for your desire. Physical time is simply the process through which that seed grows into visible form. But the creation itself is not happening in the future. It has already happened in the instant you claimed it within. People often get trapped in the idea of waiting. They tell themselves that their desire is on its way, or that it will happen someday. This mindset subtly reinforces the sense that it is not here yet. The truth is, if you are waiting, you are still denying that it is already yours. The law of assumption works when you shift from will happen to is done. Once you make that shift, time no longer feels like a barrier. It becomes simply the stage upon which your fulfilled desire will make its entrance. Think about how memory works. When you recall a past event vividly, you can feel the emotions of that moment as if it's happening now. The same is true for imagining the future. You can feel it as if it already exists. The subconscious mind responds to these inner experiences without any distinction between past, present, or future. This is why accepting your desire as complete now is so powerful. In consciousness, there is only now, and what you hold as true in the now is what will be expressed outwardly. The physical world operates at a slower pace, so there may appear to be a gap between the inner claim and the outer confirmation. This gap is not a delay in the creation itself. It is simply the unfolding of events in a way that fits the natural order. If you understand this, you will no longer feel impatient or anxious. You will not keep checking for signs or asking when it will happen. You will rest in the same calm certainty you have about things you already possess. When you stop seeing time as an obstacle, you release the tension that keeps your desire at a distance. The act of constantly looking for it in the future is like uprooting a plant every day to check if it's growing. It interrupts the process. Instead, you nurture it by continuing to live from the state of fulfillment, knowing the physical reflection must appear. This understanding also frees you from the fear of missed opportunities or wrong timing. If it is accepted as done in consciousness, nothing in the outer world can prevent its manifestation. Time bends to accommodate the state you occupy. Circumstances, people, and events will align in ways you could not have planned, often making it seem as though the timing was perfect all along. The truth is, it was perfect the moment you claimed it within. And what you call waiting was simply the unfolding of what had already been settled in the unseen. Rest in knowing, let go of how and when, and rest in the certainty that it's already yours. Resting in knowing is the state where you release all mental grasping, drop the need to control every detail, and settle into the quiet assurance that your desire is already a fact in your inner reality. It is the opposite of striving. It is not passive resignation, but an active state of faith, a deep inner stance that says, it is done, and refuses to be moved by appearances. When you rest in knowing, you are no longer tossed between hope and doubt, because you have chosen to accept your desire as a present reality within yourself. The human tendency is to obsess over the how and the when. The mind wants to plan the exact sequence of events that will bring the desire into form, and it wants to know the precise moment it will arrive. But the very act of trying to figure this out signals to your subconscious that you don't yet believe it's yours. Faith does not require knowing the logistics. It simply accepts the end as already accomplished. When you rest in knowing, you no longer entertain the idea that it might not happen. You live as though it already has. Think of planting a seed. You do not dig it up every day to check if it has sprouted. You trust the unseen process, knowing the soil is doing its work. In the same way, when you have claimed your desire in consciousness, you do not keep checking for signs or asking if it's coming. You trust that the unseen forces of life are arranging everything perfectly. This trust is not idle, it's powerful. It allows the natural flow of creation to move without interference from your doubts or fears. Resting in knowing also shifts your emotional state. Instead of anxiety, there is calm. Instead of desperation, there is quiet confidence. This emotional shift is vital because the subconscious responds to your dominant feeling. If you feel it's already yours, you naturally stop grasping at it. You stop chasing and begin to attract. People, opportunities, and circumstances that match your inner state appear without effort, because your energy is aligned with having, not wanting. This state is cultivated through consistent inner dwelling on the end result. You return to it again and again in imagination, feeling its reality so vividly that it becomes your natural resting place. The outer world may still show the old picture for a time, but you remain unmoved, because you know the change is already accomplished where it truly matters, within. Eventually, the outer world must conform to the inner fact. When you rest in knowing, you also lose the urge to compete, compare, or rush. You are no longer looking sideways to see who is ahead of you or behind you, because you understand that your desire is not coming from outside. It is emerging from within you. You realize there is no shortage, no competition, and no possibility of missing what is yours. The only thing required is to remain in the state of having, not to chase the appearance of it in the physical. Letting go of the how and when doesn't mean you avoid action. It means you act from inspiration rather than fear. You follow the natural impulses that arise, trusting that they are part of the unfolding. You don't need to know the whole plan to take the next step. Each step comes easily, without strain, because you are not trying to force the outcome. The certainty that it's already yours becomes the foundation you walk on, and everything you do flows from that unshakable inner position.